Writer, director, one Daniel Zavaleta brings us Haunted Valley. Zavaleta also has a small role in the movie. Now, I'm assuming that he has family members. This is a kind of a family put together film, because there is cast members here that have the same surname as him. I'm assuming maybe his son is kind of playing the main character here. And what is the story? Well, it's kind of like a La Llorona story. It's a primarily kind of Latino cast here, and it focuses on this family, all of which whom have kind of separate experiences with this kind of strange, ethereal kind of woman in white, this menacing kind of supernatural entity which seems to have taken an interest in this kind of family, visits these family members wherever they are, at work, at home, kind of scares the bejesus out of them, and inevitably this kind of worries our family, as you'd probably rightly expectly so, and they have to try and figure out a way, can they defeat it? What will happen? You'll have to watch the movie and find out. So this is a low budget kind of horror movie drama. Let's talk about what I think works. Let's talk about the visuals first of all, because the director here has made some interesting choices. The director loves a filter, which gives it a kind of artificial feel. I mean, I can liken it to movies like Sin City, but not quite as overt as that. But this kind of movie has a lot of sequences where it has some type of kind of filter over it, which makes the movie look like it's perpetually on a green screen, even though I don't think a lot of the sequences were. There may have been some that were on green screen, but it kind of gives it this kind of weird artificial feel a lot of the time, because we have this kind of filter over it, or kind of the lighting is kind of different, or the color grading is a little bit kind of off center. So, you know, it has a certain stylistic choice about it. I don't know whether it will go over well with everyone. I actually kind of liked it in a weird way, because I felt like it kind of made the movie feel like it had its own voice to a certain degree. And there are actually sequences where I feel the choice here to do this really benefits the film, particularly in regard to the actual ghost itself, because we have this woman in white, kind of like La Llorona, and she's kind of emanating this kind of like spectral glow whenever we see her. And because of the kind of like the odd kind of contrast in kind of like lighting and color and this kind of filters, it really does kind of help the effect of showing you this kind of as a paranormal entity, and not just kind of like, you know, an actress dressed up in, you know, white clothing and stuff like that. So I do feel it benefits the movie in some aspects, and kind of gives it a somewhat of a stylistic choice, which I kind of did appreciate. I have to say as well, I thought the score was very good in this movie. This movie has some great kind of creepy music that I think really elevates some of the kind of the creepier scenes, and you know, a particularly kind of strong score. There's also very good kind of sound effects and sound mixing here. So I feel the filmmakers here have kind of got a very technically minded kind of skill set here, because it's clear they kind of have fiddled around with it a lot in kind of post-production, and in some aspects I kind of I personally appreciate it, but I will put a little asterisk there, because I feel some people may be put off with the kind of the artificial kind of fakeness, certainly the visuals. But let's talk about the visuals. Let's talk about the ghost itself, because I kind of quite like the design here. I mean, I think plenty of kind of low-budget ghost stories that just has a someone dressed up in white clothing with kind of grease paint on, looking very kind of corporeal. I like the attempt here to make this this ghost character ethereal by making it kind of seem like it's semi-transparent, and it has no legs, and when we see its face, it's kind of skeletal and things like that. So I actually did like the design here, even though, yes, the design of this kind of like this entity looks a little fake. It kind of looks like video effects. Let's not lie, it kind of does look a little fake, but I still liked it, and I can appreciate the limitations that a low budget kind of filmmaker has. The movie is incredibly simple in regards to kind of plot. That's going to come into a negative as well in just a moment, but on the positive side, this is a film where you're not going to get lost, you're not going to get kind of like confused about what's going on. it's such a simple plot. You can really just have this on in the background and do other things, and you'll kind of not really miss anything. If you just want a very, very simple kind of ghost story, you know, it's essentially like a family discover they're being menaced by a ghost. They do something about it. That's your plot. So you know, it's a very, very simple plot, easy to follow. If you like a nice kind of easy time watching a kind of a ghost story here. So let's talk about maybe some things that don't work. Let me just kind of go on from that. Yes, the movie is maybe a little bit too simple for some. It really doesn't have any type of twists and turns. In actual fact, the first half an hour of the movie, we're really just getting introduced to the kind of the different family members who are getting menaced one at a time by this kind of entity. And that's a third of the movie gone. You know, and then we kind of like, it really just is like, oh, we're getting haunted, kind of let's find some way to kind of deal with it. And that's kind of it. It would have been nice to have a little bit more of a challenge, I feel, because this kind of like, this movie doesn't really feel like the family are put up against much, really. There's no way we've tried to get rid of it and it's kind of failed and we need to think of something else. It's really just a very, very simple narrative. Too simple for some, I would feel. And I have to say as well that the way this movie is presented in a kind of a linear way, you know, we're introduced to different family members at different times, one by one, kind of being introduced to the family members and then their kind of first experience with this ghost. And I'm thinking, you know, it flips between different characters. I think, I don't know who these characters are in relation to one another to a certain degree until we kind of like see them together later on in the movie. It's just kind of like has these sequences of this young boy initially kind of getting menaced, then this kind of like older woman, then this kind of younger girl. I think, is this just going to be a bunch of sequences where someone gets menaced by a ghost and then we realise, oh, you know, half an hour into it, it's all the same family. So yeah, it narratively I think is a little on the weaker side, and you know I hate to say this, to be honest, because it's obviously a family production, but the acting isn't brilliant. It's not the worst I've ever seen on a low budget movie, I'll give it that. It's just about passable, I would say, if you are familiar with low budget B movies. But there are there's some kind of clunky line reading here. And that's the problem here. It feels like the characters are just reading the text off a script. And we have that kind of, that cliche that we have a lot in ghost films where someone sees something extraordinarily paranormal and clearly something of supernatural origins, and they simply are not all that kind of distressed about it. And they're not all that scared. They're a little bit, oh my God, but you know, not as a real person. And in the next sequence, they are totally fine and like nothing's happened. You know, it's a cliche that I've seen in kind of many of these kind of lower budget movies, but this one, I would say, yeah, it goes a little bit further than that, to the point where it borders on a little bit silly in the way these characters are so non-reactive to something which is very clearly kind of paranormal. And not it's not like they see a glimpse, it's kind of right there in their face as well. This, like I said, the ghost is like bold out there, you know, not trying to hide this one. So there is that. So, you know, should you see this movie? Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be for everyone. If you like B movies and you just want a simple, visually interesting but very kind of simplistic kind of ghost story, then you may want to check it out. I actually kind of enjoyed it to a certain degree. I kind of like the simple premise. I like the visuals. I like the music. I mean, the acting isn't great, but it wasn't as bad where it kind of, I couldn't stand it. It was just about passable, I would say, for a kind of a B movie, but I feel some people who may be a stickler for that might not appreciate it. But I still kind of had a little bit of fun with it. I like the visual stylings of this movie. I'll give it a 5 out of 10. I can't say it's an above average film, but I will say if you're wanting some low budget scares, you may want to check it out. On a completely separate note, please do let me know if this microphone I'm using is any better than the previous videos, It's a different mic. I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are, if you prefer this or if you prefer the way I did it previously. Anyway, again, a 5 out of 10 for this movie. Please do let me know what your thoughts are, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.